Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium.
Daddy told me on his dying bed.
What exactly is exploitation cinema? Most think that exploitation is what it is because it checks a bunch of very specific boxes. It has to have a hokey plot full of outrageous characters doing ridiculously explicit things, and in most cases they're right. But that narrow-minded view cages thousands of films together when they shouldn't be, and turns off even more people, which it shouldn't do, because, as with every genre of cinema, there are several types of exploitation film. Bloodfeast exploits violence and gore. Freaks exploited its actors. The entire back catalogue of Tinto Brass exploits sexual content. Reefer Madness exploited the hysteria of marijuana in America during the 1950s.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
So again, what is exploitation? It's quite simple. It's just a film that pushes an aspect of its content to the extreme point of exploiting it. How was that?
It was good.
This form of cinema was revitalised by Grindhouse in 2007, and with it came a new wave of exploitation imitators such as Machete, Hobo the Shotgun, and Black Dynamite.
I am declaring war on anybody who sells drugs in our community.
But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community.
And from exploitation cinema, we get what is known as a majority of cult movies. Clerks, Donnie Darko, Showgirls, whatever. These cult movies either made no money in theatres, or in the case of Showgirls, torn to shreds by critics, but later went on to have a thriving afterlife because of the devoted fan base surrounding them. Normally cult cinema has a stigmatic aura. For example, Clockwork Orange has a controversial background, giving birth to a sense of taboo, which only serves to fuel the ongoing interest in the film. And then there's Craig Brewer's Black Snake Moan. But that's a very different kind of cult film, for two reasons. One, it's not an exploitation film. It has more in common with the aforementioned Clerks and Donnie Darko insofar as that it was largely overlooked upon release. But two, a cult film has to have that essential devoted fan base I mentioned, which this film does not, because I feel like I'm the only member of that club. Released in the same year as Grindhouse, Black Snake Moan received average reviews and was a box office bomb, earning a measly $10 million off a $15 million budget. And since its disappointing release, nothing much has happened. No one talks about it. Except for me, because this is one of my favourite movies of all time, featuring what I think is the best performance from my favourite actor, Sam Jackson. A film full of excess and vices, alcohol, drugs, violence and sex. But which of these are pushed to the point of exploitation? None really. The blues permeates this film, through both music and character experience. Laz is hurting over losing his wife's affections to his brother.
Yeah, go and look. See if I give a shit about any of you people.
And Ray is in crisis over being left behind with no one to satisfy her sexual cravings. This relationship between blues music and melancholic circumstance is carried throughout. Guitars mix with the sounds of the South, such as crickets and rattlesnakes, to emphasise the seediness of this world. The film mixes religious allegory too, introduced alongside learning of Laz's vengeful wrath of God disposition.
Cain slew Abel, slew him out of envy. God put his mark on Cain for his sin. Is that what you want, Deke? Huh? Is that what you come here for? I do it for you. All you got to do is say it again. Say you love me. Say you love me, nigga!
Laz turns a broken bottle to his brother's neck in rage, goes home and drowns his anger in liquor. Ronnie, equally as unstable in his bouts of anxiety, leaves to serve in the Corps, despite Ray's pleas. A drug-fueled night results in Ray being raped, beaten and left on the side of the road for dead. Laz finds her body outside his farm the next morning. Both lead very different lives. She wears a skimpy top emblazoned with a rebel flag and he's a black man, so there you go. But parallel ones all the same. Music is what they both find peace in. Music is not a cure, but a source of stabilisation. Amidst all this carnage, there is a real sweetness and tenderness to the film. Each interaction between Laz and pharmacist Angie is genuine and heartfelt, and the film's soft spot is further explored as the relationship between Ray and Laz continues to grow.
Now that's sharp. That is sharp.
The film refers to Ray's antics as a sickness. Just as Ray is sick with the addiction that is poisoning her partnership with Ronnie, Laz hopes to save his marriage by saying that it simply got sick, but that it can get better. An illness plagues both their lives. A more on-the-nose biblical reference is Lazarus himself. Did she fuck up that line? It's hardly a coincidence. Oh, Jess, shut up! It's hardly a coincidence that he shares the same name with the man who was seemingly brought back from death by Jesus. Just like Lazarus and the Bible, Laz and Ray are about to experience a resurrection of sorts. And this sickness is heightened to an impressionistic depiction of a demon. This line is repeated by the two most prominent females in Laz's life. Their plight is not uncannily similar, but one and the same. Upon grasping this revelation, Laz runs from his house in fear, throwing his Bible to the ground. It opens on a random page. Or does it? The passage he reads from the open book leads him to a life-altering conclusion. If he is to rid the devil from his mind, first he must exorcise it from her body. This inspiring passage is never revealed to us. So was it gravity which turned the pages? The wind? Or the hand of God? Having accepted his mission from God, Laz sees how volatile she is, running around in her sleep and thinking that he has kept her in his house for malicious purposes. So in order to make sure she doesn't go anywhere, he resorts to chaining her to his iron radiator.
I want to tell you about that.
After all, in order to save his soul, he must first save hers. Both characters have a reason for their wicked ways, because both have been robbed of something precious to them in the past. Ray was robbed of her innocence when she was molested as a child, and Laz of his unborn child. The film is about losing something important, and allowing evil to grow in your heart, then finding something new to keep you going and make you stronger, restoring you to the good person you once were. The environment full of racial tension our characters call home is also addressed, when local preacher RL discovers Ray's presence on the farm.
I didn't want to do it.
Say she's beat up. You call the sheriff on this?
Oh, real. Now put yourself in my place. You're out here by yourself with a, as you said, half-naked white woman love to fuck. Now, I done been toe-to-toe with the law in this town a heap of times just for being black and nearby.
The devil resides not only in their souls, but in the land which surrounds them. RL talks to Ray, she asks about heaven and doing wrong.
There's sin in my heart. There's evil in the world. But when I got no one, I talked to God. I asked for strength. I asked for forgiveness. Not peace at the end of my days when I got no more life to live or no more good to do, but today, right now. What's your heaven?
Ronnie.
Ronnie is what she is fighting for. What she will lose if she does not change, like the rotation of the crops. The soil will go bad and no more will grow. Laz will live the rest of his life drunken and bitter. They have living to do, but they have to evolve first. Which brings us to the titular sequence. On a dark and stormy night, Laz takes his guitar from its case and sings the Black Snake Moan to Ray. This stunning sequence is the equivalent of an exorcism, and the rest of the film is about them rebuilding themselves as people.
That voice in my head, every time I think it's gone, it comes howling back. Calls me when I'm ailing. Can't find my way home. Lost in the pines. I calls it the Black Snake Moan.
So what is the Black Snake Moan, this mysterious spectre Laz speaks of? The devil is commonly represented as a black serpent, in film, literature, in painting. So is it the call of Satan? Is it him tempting us to do wrong? Ray's Black Snake Moan is her compulsion to engage in sexual acts, whereas Laz's is to react out of rage and violence. Ronnie returns from the army following a bad conduct discharge. He never even left the country due to his anxiety. His Black Snake Moan is holding him back. So essentially, the Black Snake Moan is the compelling force for us to do wrong. It's what drives an alcoholic to drink, a murderer to kill people.
Black Snake is evil. Black Snake is all I see. Woke up this morning. Black Snake moved in on me.
But for Ray and Laz, music serves as an outlet. As the bucket of blood scene shows, Laz rediscovers his love for performing, and Ray finds a way to express herself through dance rather than excessive or destructive means. This scene is so sensual and primal, it proves to be just as sexual as the sex scenes are. The film is full of badness and wrongdoing. Most of its characters display such things as their primary trait, but it does not celebrate these things.
You know that bartender give me a dirty look and a dirty glass. I said, "Say, motherfucker, do you know who I am?" He said, "Hell no, nigga, I don't give a goddamn."
It suggests that there are people in the world that may seem rotten to the core, but that does not mean that they are not capable of good.
About that time, a pimp eased up and turned out the lights. That's when I had old Billy Lyons dead in my sight. When the lights come back on, old Billy's gone to rest. I pumped 9 of my bullets in his motherfucking chest.
The Black Snake Moan has not been erased from these people. It never will be. But they have learned how to live with it and combat against it for what is right for them. Ray carries a necklace chain, a reminder of the spiritual journey which she has only begun. Knowing what she does now, it's her job to teach Ronnie of how to live with the Black Snake Moan. There is the notion that exploitation cinema is married to an era, the 70s through to the 80s, just as silent cinema is married to the 20s. But exploitation films release every year, and I'm not talking about the byproducts of Grindhouse. Look at Blue is the Warmest Colour. That has sex scenes that go on for so long, you get to the point where you question whether you're still watching a story, or if the director has just taken a pause just to show us some porn. It exploits sex just as Tinto Brass did. Hostel and the Saw sequels are the modern day blood feast. It's all about the gore and not much else. Wolves at the Door exploited real life murder victims, just as Freaks exploited its actors who actually suffered with physical deformities. And then there's the Magic Mike movies. They exploit skin just as much as Rocky Horror. But the ultimate modern exploitation film is Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. It takes 2 hours to show us the brutal torture and crucifixion of Jesus. Martin Scorsese managed to do the same thing within 10 minutes. And the one thing that a lot of these films have in common are their posters. Exploitation cinema relies a lot on its artwork in order to sell the movie. I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, Drag Strip Girl, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, the list goes on. Similar to Sci-Fi Channel's Sharknado. But all this does is deceive and exploit the audience. Black Snake Moan has the title and poster of an exploitation film. When you hear the words Black Snake Moan, you don't immediately think of religious salvation. But this film is not exploitative. It has themes of anger, sex, abuse, and violence. But they are all important to the story, and none of them are pushed to gratuitous levels. And as a result, none are exploited. There is a difference between a film that is explicit and one that is exploitative. Regardless, Black Snake was criticised for exploiting women by over-sexualising them. And its critics included Christina Ricci herself. She was unhappy with the promotional material because of its pulpy style. But the thing to remember when discussing exploitation cinema is that context is everything. To refer back to Passion of the Christ, I remember sitting in 5th class as a 10-year-old, hearing other children come to school talking about the film and how upsetting it was. Now, think about it. 10-year-old kids watching a film drenched in gory torture. So what makes it so different to watching a film like Martyrs? Jesus.
And also because Martyrs isn't good.
Martyrs is good. I'm gonna fight you in the street. It's not a 2-hour torture sequence. This is what the Lord did for you. All of a sudden, this wildly inappropriate film for children becomes suitable in the eyes of suburban parents, entirely based upon its main character and subject matter. And context, and the way in which we view extreme cinema, is of great importance to Black Snake. Now that we know the Black Snake Moan is the devil's attempt to poison human souls, what could be more appropriate than representing our two main characters in their most unflattering, deplorable state? Ray's appearance was lambasted for being a stereotypical view of women that the film industry should be moving away from. But that's the point exactly. Her Black Snake Moan makes people see her that way. By looking from the outside in, that's the way she appears. We don't yet know her character nuance, or the beautiful side to her personality. All we see is what the devil wants us to see. The same can be said for how Sam Jackson is portrayed as Lazarus. He looks ferocious, intimidating, and violent. He holds a dominant stance over Ray, clutching the chain which binds her. And just as women were upset over the female representation on the poster, men could have equally valid complaints over that of the male. Laz displays the tired stereotypical trope that men are abusive and controlling. But again, that is the point. We are not looking at these people for who they truly are. We're looking at a set of imposters, an illusion. I think we're looking at the Black Snake Moan. But what do I know?